Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. Let's just dig right into it. According to BoxingScene.com, Terence Bud Crawford makes this direct statement in regards to Errol Spence Jr. and TMZ Sports. He states, "I want to fight. Let me just say that right now, just to show the world I'm the best welterweight in the division." He also states, "I feel confident matching up with anybody. I can box, I can bang, I can switch, I can punch. I'm not slow." So I feel like that's a direct hit at Mikey Garcia to some degree as well, because when you look at the Errol Spence Jr. versus Mikey Garcia fight, Mikey Garcia looked a little bit slower, looked lethargic, didn't look agile at all. He just didn't look the same Mikey, and maybe that was the weight gain, maybe the snack program didn't help Mikey the way we thought it would. And the fact that Terence Bud Crawford is saying all these things, when you break down his statement, he said, "I can box, I can bang, I can switch, I can punch." And it's a lot of people that say Terence Crawford can do all those things, but they doubt he can punch. That's probably the biggest attribute that people tend to overlook and say that Terence Crawford is not much of a puncher. But then when you look up a guy from 140 pounds moving up to 147, and you see Terence Bud Crawford get 2 stoppages right away against 2 bigger opponents in Jeff Horn and Jose Benavidez. These are 2 guys that had never been stopped prior to Terence Crawford. These are 2 guys that were undefeated back to back. So you can say what you want about the competition, but these are 2 massive guys, 2 guys that could both easily be fighting at 154 pounds, another weight class above Terence Crawford. And the fact that Terence Crawford not only beat and outboxed, but stopped both of these guys, that's a testament to Terence Crawford's power, because we know Terence Crawford really does have pop. And not only does he hit hard, but he wears you down with an accumulation of shots. Not only does he wear you down with an accumulation of shots, he can hurt you with one big shot because he places his punches perfectly. He uses angles at time to get into the right spots, and he also counters you at the great moments in the fight when he knows that he's worn you down and weakened you. So Terence Crawford has a lot of abilities. Terence Crawford can switch. And that's one of the great things about Terence Crawford. You can fight him one way for the first 3-4 rounds, and then he completely switches it up, and you have to change your entire game plan to face a whole new Terence Crawford. And that is probably going to be the most difficult thing anyone would have to adjust to. And I'm not sure Errol Spence Jr. can do that. I've seen far more dimensions to Terence Bud Crawford's game than I have to Errol Spence Jr. Yes, we've most recently seen Errol Spence Jr. show us that he can box. And we know that Errol Spence Jr. is a slight puncher. But we don't know that Errol Spence Jr. can box at this level, because we've seen Errol Spence Jr. box out of Mikey Garcia, who he had an enormous height and reach advantage over, a weight advantage over. Now with Terence Crawford fits right into the welterweight division. He's already acclimated to the weight. He's already a world champion at the welterweight division, and he's already accomplished more at 140, a bigger division than what Mikey normally fights at. So Terence Bud Crawford is tailor-made to be a welterweight. Terence Bud Crawford has the perfect dimensions to be a welterweight. And when Errol Spence and Terence Crawford face off, Terence Crawford has one thing that's going to be a huge advantage, and a lot of people don't realize that, and that is going to be his reach advantage over Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence may have a height, but Terence Crawford has a reach advantage, and it's something that was a glaring weakness in the Mikey fight. Terence Bud Crawford has the physical dimensions to challenge Errol Spence Jr. in a way that he's never been challenged. He has the skill set that can challenge Errol Spence Jr. in a way he's never been challenged. And when you look at it, when you break down what he stated his case as to the fact that he's confident matching up with anybody, but he also stated he want to fight Errol Spence Jr. to show the world that he's the best welterweight in the division. And and because there's so many questions, a lot of people have Terence Crawford 1, 2, or 3 on their pound for pound. But at the end of the day, when you look at Terence Crawford saying he wants to be the best welterweight in the division, to show the world how great he is, when you hear Errol Spence Jr., he's focused more on big money paydays. He's focused more on the Mikey Garcia fights. He's focused more on the Manny Pacquiao fights. He's not really focused on proving to the world that he's the best welterweight in the world, because if beating Mikey Garcia doesn't prove you're the best welterweight in the world. Him taking on and fighting Manny Pacquiao doesn't prove he's the best welterweight in the world. Him taking on and beating possibly a Sean Porter does not not prove he's the best welterweight in the world. That does not prove it. You have to beat Terence Bud Crawford, the one guy that we all know that you're avoiding. You have to beat the Terence Bud Crawford to prove you're the best welterweight in the world. And if Errol Spence Jr. does that, then he's proven that. But his reluctancy as to getting in the ring with Terence Crawford, as addressing Terence Crawford, as making a deal with Terence Crawford is the problem. He says one thing that he's open to a Terence Crawford fight, but then he says another thing saying he won't fight on ESPN, he's not crossing the street, and he's taking the easy road. So let's air out the truth for what it is, because Errol Spence Jr. is definitely not the truth. But once again, unbiased as always, it's the IBFP. Please share, like, and you must absolutely subscribe.